got Josh here. He's got a cool solution for, I believe it's for the conventional commercial property management industry. You're going to tell us more about it. I believe it's called the Shyne Network.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, what is this and what are you trying to solve in our industry?
I appreciate that. What we're trying to solve is we're trying to solve turns, right? The make ready process is what they call it, I guess, at the high level, right? Shyne Network is the infrastructure behind better turns. We are in a position where we recognize that properties lose a lot of money when they are turning units over, right? A lot of different opportunities for the ball to be dropped, either on the maintenance side or the vendor side. So we want to centralize communication and streamline and automate a lot of the process for the property, but also for the vendors, right? When we first launched the product, we were a vendor operating tool, and we quickly realized that vendors aren't the only people who need better operations. So we continue to stay hyper focused on the make ready problem, and we have since built out the operations for both maintenance and vendors.
And this it also does for housekeeping too, right?
Yeah, so when you think about housekeeping,
Yeah.
housekeeping is part of turning a unit, specifically the last part of turning a unit most often. So what we allow is we allow, the painting, the cleaning, the carpet cleaning, the drywall repairs to be scheduled and automated both internally and with your vendors.
And when you came up with this, you came in with the mindset of, hey, there has to be a better way, but you only know that because you were on the other side seeing all the issues. And, people always say, but it's always been that way, or this is how we do it, or this is who we use. But why does it have to be like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Um, Yeah, you're right. So I'm a vendor. I'm a vendor just as much as I am a prop tech founder. That's why we started and launched the company to begin with, right? We have been in service for about 4 years. The company is called Pocket Aces. And when I first started, I was pulling my hair out. I was going crazy, right? I had 20 maintenance guys texting me. I had, subcontractors I had to deal with. I realized there were operating tools out there, but there was no operating tool specific for the multifamily vendor. And I quickly realized that maintenance people, for the most part, they love their texting and phone calling when it comes to scheduling appointments. Subcontractors, for the most part, they loved WhatsApp, and a lot of these folks didn't love technology, didn't love apps, for example, right? So I set out to make it better for both maintenance and my subcontractors internally. I hired a developer and we built out an operating system that worked for everybody when it comes to the people that it takes to get a turn completed. And we quickly realized that it's a bigger problem than just what we have internally as a small company. Everyone seemed to be struggling with that issue. So it doesn't have to be the same way as always been. We don't have to text, call, and email our vendors and wonder where they're at and wait several weeks for invoicing and approach things with no scope of work or anything like that. It doesn't have to be that way. We can solve and remove a lot of the stress when it comes to turns simply by implementing technology like Shyne Network.
Now, technology is always something people want to incorporate in any industry, right?
Of course.
But where do you get this mindset of, like, I gotta figure this out, but use technology where in this industry, there's a lot of just old school, like I think notepad and pen.
Of course.
But how did you apply that kind of thinking? Because I think it's pretty refreshing, and
Yeah.
honestly, we need more of it, and there's not enough of it anywhere.
Appreciate that.
Like, is that from your experience, upbringing? Like, what's getting you there?
I think, experience and upbringing have a lot to do with it for sure.
Yeah.
Figuring it out is who I am, I suppose, right? Mom and dad always figured it out, right? They were the best examples of what figuring it out meant, right? Grew up with a pretty big family, older brothers, four of them, have a younger sister. And mom and dad were constantly figuring it out, whether that was what to have for dinner that night, because they had to throw something together because money was tight, or figuring it out how to make money to go to prom, or figuring it out how to make money to go to football camp, right? Like my mother and father instilled those values in me, right? Like if you want to do something, you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And of course, they're there to support. Tons of ideas all the time. My dad had ideas from selling burritos to shoveling snow to, painting curbs with addresses to going to the flea market, hustling at the flea market, right? We were always constantly coming up with these ideas. Well, what if we did this? And what if we did that? So thinking about solutions has been instilled in me, right?
Would you say seeing that from them being examples, kind of made it go, hey, this is just how it is. Like when you came up through a challenge or you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out a challenge, well, if they tried something, maybe I could try something.
Yeah, I mean, I also like constantly seeing them trying new things
Yeah.
and new efforts to, generate a result of us being able to survive, right? But I also realized that like sometimes their way was the hard way as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
love you, mom and dad, you're the best, and they were just doing their best at that particular time, right? So, as I got older, I really wanted to step out of doing things just to survive,
Yeah.
right? And I've taken those lessons, and that's allowed me to level up and utilize those same lessons to get me where I want to go, right? My mindset is also around like, man, my dad has tons of brilliant ideas. And I just wanted to make sure that I was able to execute on some of my ideas. Not
Yeah.
that he didn't, but I wanted to do it at scale. I've always known that about myself, right? Like, man, I want to do it at scale. And my mindset also comes from being raised in a Latino family, right? You take care of them. You take care of other people. You do whatever you can to serve others. I often say the lesson I learned the most from my mother was not by her telling me something, but by me watching her. And that was the best time to eat is after you serve others first. You know, my mom always ate last.
That's amazing.
And my father, right? I guess one of the best lessons I learned from him is very similar, right? The best way to survive is by feeding others first. We hustled burritos my entire childhood, standing outside football stadiums, baseball stadiums, peanuts, burritos. I remember for Cinco de Mayo, he'd take us down to the warehouse and buy Mexican flags, and we're out there selling Mexican flags, right? And we're providing a product, and we're providing smiles, and that allowed us to take the money home and pay rent, or buy football cleats, or whatever we needed at that stage of our lives. So I think that's where my mindset comes from. My mindset also comes from failure. I have fell on my face a lot. I've tried a lot of these ideas that I talk about, and they haven't come to fruition. I've tried to swing for a homer and missed dramatically, and ended up back on the bench for 3 years. It's probably the best analogy I can provide, right?
But seeing kind of like those examples with your family and just trying and getting up again. I mean, maybe at the time you didn't realize, it was showing resiliency,
Yeah,
but all you knew was you just got to keep going.
yeah.
But where do you get that shift though? Because I mean, it takes more of a mature mind to understand that process. Like what was it in you where you're like, I gotta build the scale, I gotta make sure I keep going. Like that's not an easy concept for a lot of people to wrap their heads around.
I think it's the desire, obviously, to take care of my family,
Yeah.
but
You think that's a
I,
cultural thing
I
or?
think I think there's some cultural
Yeah.
parts to it. I think the Latino household,
Yeah.
my mom, you gotta take care of your brothers and sisters. You gotta take care of
Yes.
your brothers and sisters. They're your brothers and sisters, whether or not you like it,
Well,
right?
it goes to
Right.
you're serving your employees, everyone that works around you, your family. Like those are
Yes.
those cultural things that trickle, right?
You have to serve. You serve the people who provide
Yeah.
for you, and you want to provide for them, right? You take care of those who take care of you.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's a cultural thing, but I also think like how did I get to the mindset of wanting to scale, right? I realized there's more people outside of my family, right? What do I mean by that? There's several people who have the same challenges. There's several people who, are at flea markets on Sundays and Saturdays hustling with their grandpa. There are several children, young teens, young adults who are cleaning apartments with their mothers and fathers, or who are going to their dad's automotive shop on, during summer break, and helping them in the
Yeah.
auto shop, and not having the traditional summer that maybe some people think about, right? Like,
Right.
I think there are several people, culture aside, that have this upbringing of seeing their parents work hard, and they may not be able to pass down money, or they may not be able to pass down belongings, but they do pass down work ethic,
Yeah.
right?
But there's also other ways besides, like, to your point about the money part. My mom would make meals for her coworkers or neighbors. We didn't have a lot of money growing up either, but I remember I used to hate it as a kid because my mom would go and deliver like fried fish or whatever. Like, why are you doing this, mom? But it taught me as I got older lessons like, hey, there's other ways to show gratitude, and there's other ways to kind of show thank you,
Of course.
and it's up to you to decide on how you want to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think showing gratitude and having the mindset, at least my mindset from a leadership perspective, is gratitude, but also I want to learn from you just as much as you want to learn from me, right? And having that open mind is super important. And
Yeah.
some of the best lessons come from something as simple as rice and fried fish, right? Or, a burrito.
Yeah.
There's a lot of love there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of love, and there's a lot of, and when you think about it from a business perspective, right? Like, one of the best things that I do for my people, and they love it, is showing up and saying, hey, thank you so much for what you do. Let me take care of your lunch today, right? Or here's a $50 bill,
Yeah.
right? Or thank you. Just them hearing it in person, after you inspect their property is, it provides a dramatic upshift in your business,
Oh yeah,
right?
I agree with that 100%.
Like,
It's all the little things.
it's all the little things, right? It's grace, but it's also, they want feedback.
Yeah.
I think most recently we did a survey internally. We called all of our subcontractors, and we asked them a couple questions. One of those questions was like, what do you need from us? What do you need from us? How can we improve? And the answer from the top down, like unanimously, was feedback. I want someone to come to my property and tell me what I'm doing well and where I can get better, right? Now, let's keep in mind that we have a 95% satisfaction score across all of our properties. But even then, they're craving feedback. They want it so bad. They want to be told they're doing good. They want to get 0.1% better, 1% better today. They want to figure out ways to, although they're doing better financially maybe than they ever have, to improve and get better and, reach their dreams. What are their dreams, right? And I ask that question to my team often, at least once a year. What are your dreams? Are we helping you get to your dreams?
I think I think we probably just got to ask that question more.
Yeah.
Because like people want they crave, they hunger that, but they don't know how to communicate that. And it's up to the team members, leaders, who whatever you want to call them, to kind of extend that olive branch, right?
Of course.
And the challenge is, how do you get out of your tunnel vision to kind of see the bigger picture? And we all kind of slip in that.
Of course.
It ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, myself included, get to the point where you're just like, oh, so hyper focused on growth, or you're so stressed about the fact that you may not meet payroll this week, or you're so caught up in the fact that so and so did X or so and so did Y, right?
Yeah.
I think the best way you can spend your time, if you don't know what to do with your time, or you feel like you don't know why your company is producing the way it's producing, like, there is no time wasted if you're spending time with your team and giving them feedback or receiving feedback from them. In my opinion, there's no time wasted, right? Some people can argue, well, if they just keep giving the same feedback over and over again, then it is time wasted. In that case, I may agree, right? But if it's continuous improvement feedback, okay, get better at this, and then we're giving you feedback on this, and then you get better at this, and we're giving you feedback on this. There's no better way to spend your time, right? Because people at the heart of it is what makes our business move. I'm one person, and we built Shyne Network to automate and operate a lot of the company so we can do it with less people. That still remains true. However, a physical body still needs to go and do the work, right?
Yep.
The system can assign, the system can guide, the system can pay, the system can do 90% of the admin work, right? 100% of the admin work. But what it can't do is physically put a hand and wipe a counter down. It can't physically grab a hand and put paint on the wall. So the people is what completes the process, and the process isn't complete without the people. I hope that makes sense.
People is what help kind of runs the whole system. You definitely got to build relationships and invest in people. But how does Shyne Network empower people and kind of get them to level up or get to where they need to go?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, Shyne exists for that reason, right? When they ask for the simple, 2 or 3 word answer of why Shyne, right? Shyne was built to empower people, more specifically vendors, right? There's a lot of things that people deal with on a daily basis when we think about the make-ready process, right? Mm-hmm. So on the on-site team or the maintenance side of things, right, you have the move-out inspection, right? After the move-out inspection takes place, you have to document, what the damage is. You have to then figure out what the internal team's going to do. You have to schedule the internal team. Then you have to figure out what your vendors are going to do. You have to schedule your vendors. And then you have to keep track of all those things, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
As a maintenance guy, and traditionally, they're doing that with an expo marker and a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Right? And then once things get scheduled, whether that's with your internal team or with a third-party vendor, you have to verify that work, right? And let's face it, maintenance folks are busier probably than they've ever been, right? And there's a variety of different reasons around that. That's a whole other conversation. But they're busy. They got a lot going on, right? And I think what happens, this is where the communication breakdown starts to happen. Maybe the scope of work wasn't clearly communicated. Maybe the schedule wasn't clearly communicated. And that's not all on the fault of the maintenance person. Perhaps it wasn't heard correctly, right?
Right.
Maybe they transferred the information correctly, but it wasn't received. And then we got to, now it's in the vendor's hands. Okay, what happens then? Are vendors using operating tools? Are vendors using Google Calendar? Are vendors using WhatsApp? Like, there's a lot of things that take place on the vendor side to schedule, assign, make sure the work gets complete, make sure the work gets completed correctly. And it all happens in a very, very, very tight window.
And it could be very frustrating or a lot for anybody. And that's one situation.
That's one situation, right?
Yeah.
And like thinking about the amount of opportunities where communication can break down in the turn process, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of opportunities for communication to break down. And as I mentioned, in a very small window. Traditionally speaking, and correct me if I'm wrong, multifamily industry, right? Like, you want this back on the market in 5 days.
Yeah.
I think 3 days would be amazing. Oh my gosh, we'd all go crazy, right? I think 5 days is good. Yeah. I think 7 to 10 days is probably an industry average, right? But then you have these outliers that exist. 20 days, 35 days, 50 days, right? And if the unit's not ready, it can't be leased.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
Or if it does get leased, and then they walk into a unit that isn't ready, that immediately affects your retention. Someone told me recently, I don't know how true it is, I believe it's true, that a new tenant makes the decision if they're going to re-sign with you within 24 hours of living on site. right?
I would say there's some truth to that.
I think there may or may not be some truth to that. But the point is, if a tenant moves into an unready unit, it obviously reduces tenant satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
So things are rushed. A lot of opportunities for the ball to be dropped on both the maintenance side and the vendor side.
Well, I would add this though too. Like a lot of people want retention, right? I would say the renewal process for not just new, stabilized, whatever properties, starts at the moment someone walks in and you greet them.
That's
And
fair.
then that goes into the whole move-in process, and that goes into like how maintenance is handled, how customer service is, how you talk to them.
Correct.
I mean, it applies all across the board. So yeah, I'd say yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hellos and the knowing their name and the, standing by your word, I think all that has importance, right? But you rely heavily on your maintenance guy and your vendor to then deliver
Yeah.
maybe what you're promising, right?
It's all part of the experience.
It's all part of the experience. So, from there, there's a whole other challenge when you talk about vendors specifically. I've been a vendor for 4 years. The challenges of a vendor, first and foremost, is like the question I used to ask myself all the time. It's like, what do I gotta do to get paid on time? Like, what is it? Right? And I found myself only invoicing once a week. I found myself being so busy, so crazy throughout the week that I only ever found 2-3 hours of time on Sunday evenings to sit down and send invoices. I also found that I was missing things. I would forget to invoice for things. Things would get lost. Things would fall through the cracks. And I would perform, let's say, work on 50 units, and I would only invoice for 45 of them or 46 of them, right? So my company was losing money because we forgot to invoice properly. But then we were also losing money, or not, excuse me, not losing, but we were also not getting paid in the time that we desired because we would take a week to invoice. So if we take a week to invoice and then we don't get paid for 30 days, suddenly, if we get paid on time, that's a 37-day window. Cash conversion cycle in the multifamily world for vendors is extremely tough. It really is. And keeping vendors motivated to show up and do work requires money. More specifically, it requires the vendor getting paid. So the vendor has a responsibility in this. I've shared the responsibility that we had of invoicing properly, invoicing on time, and that didn't always happen for us. So as I progressed throughout the process, I realized we need to automate invoicing. We need to be in a position where invoices are going out faster, almost immediately if we can help it. That way we make sure we do our part. And then the quicker the property gets the invoice, the quicker they can approve it or put it in their system or, start the payment process. We didn't want any delay to occur there. So how we empower vendors immediately is we give them the freedom to automate their invoicing when using the Shyne Network platform. That's obviously important for vendors from a cash conversion and getting paid on time cycle. But another problem that vendors were having was collecting payments. Maybe they sent the invoice out on time, right? But that invoice got lost in the 100 emails properties get, or, whatever occurred on the property side is delaying payment. Vendors traditionally don't have time to sit down and remember what's past due, by how many days, and then they're spending time collecting payments. When really they should be spending time doing great quality work for your property. So not only do we automate the initial invoice, but then we have automated accounts receivable emails that are generated on behalf of the vendor. So the vendor is not spending time chasing payments. The vendor is spending time hopefully getting paid on time. And in that event, they can provide high quality work.
Yeah, you can focus on what they actually do. And that's a huge lift off the vendor,
Huge lift off the vendor, right? And not only is it huge lift off the vendor, let's talk about the property, for example. JJ, have you ever been in a position where you think you're on budget for a unit and then suddenly you get an invoice 2 weeks later and suddenly you're over budget and you're like, what the heck happened?
Yeah,
right?
It happens.
It happens, right? Maybe you think that you hit your goals for the month and then suddenly a vendor sends you invoices for 10 units they did 2 weeks ago and you're not on budget for the month. That's extremely frustrating, right? And it's bothersome for properties when they need to keep their books in order to prove their worth to their ownership groups. So we realize that by automating invoices, we take a lot of stress off the vendor, absolutely, a ton of it. We help the vendor get paid on time, faster, which has a lot of value. But we also help the properties keep their books in order, right? When you talk about make ready and turns,
Yeah.
right? Now, we're not accountants by any means, but if we can get properties the invoices they need to, go through their books and make sure that everything's on point. What is that called again? When somebody like looks at the numbers? I don't know. But that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Right? That they can get their invoice and it's all taken care of.
Well,
Right?
that's great. I mean, that's a big chunk of a lot of property management. But then on the boots on the ground side, you also have some accountability for your associates that go to these sites, right?
Correct.
And it makes it easier for them.
Yes. So
Yeah.
how it works today from a Shyne Network functionality perspective, properties can simply schedule their units. So it's not happening in text message, phone call, or email, right? In the event that somebody comes in and they're wondering if it's scheduled because the maintenance person is sick, they can go to Shyne and verify that. It's not sitting in a one-on-one conversation between the maintenance supervisor and the vendor, right? So they can schedule simply, right? It's a click of a button and the unit is scheduled. Upon it being scheduled, since it's in a centralized system, the vendor can then schedule it with their team, whether that's a subcontractor or an internal team member, right? So the assignment of appointments is extremely important because once an appointment gets assigned, maybe they forget. Maybe there's not a calendar. Maybe they were overbooked, right? So Shyne Network handles the communication of reminders, making sure that we're letting the maintenance guy or the gal know that the appointment's been accepted, giving them peace of mind.
Yeah, it's not like a post-it that's lost on your desktop somewhere.
Yeah, it's not me as a maintenance supervisor sending a text and, oh my God, did they get my text? Or,
Yeah.
oh my God, they didn't answer my phone call and I'm in need of this unit to be done in tomorrow, right? Like
Yeah.
we kind of eliminate that by streamlining the communication when it comes to scheduling. Upon it being scheduled, that's when Shyne's vendor operating tool comes into play and allows the vendor to stay organized. Vendors got a lot going on in multifamily. They got a lot of volume. They're handling a lot of units, especially if they're at 10, 20, 30, 100, 200 properties.
Well, and also too, new buildings, like if you have a lease up, you want that thing to get leased up between 12 to 15 months, and everything's going 100 miles an hour. You got construction walks, you got move-ins, you got acceptance, you got all those factors, and sometimes they get lost in the paperwork. But
That's correct.
I mean, if there's a mechanism to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to keep everyone organized, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's when we talk about turns, remain organized with your turn.
Yeah.
Once it reaches the vendor, what I found as a vendor was it was a struggle for me to keep up with the demands, right? Like, what do you mean you have 30 move outs this month? Like, how am I supposed to make sure that I gather those appointments, schedule those appointments, make sure my subcontractors actually show up, make sure my subcontractors are doing a good job, verify that work, find time to invoice for that work, right? It was a headache. So now what Shyne allows you to do is receive the appointment as a vendor, which is very simple for the maintenance team to book. Once I receive it, I can assign it very simply. Automation communication is going out, letting the maintenance team and the person performing the work remain in communication throughout the process. When it's accepted, when it's completed, if there's questions, if the lights are out, right?
Yeah.
A lot of things can take place. And all that communication is happening and being stored in a centralized location so everyone knows what's going on with their unit at all times.
Is there like timestamps and photos, or like how does that all work?
Yeah, there is. So upon assignment, the person performing the work shows up. The maintenance team knows if they're 4.5 out of 5 or 4 out of 5, so they understand who they're doing business with. Upon arrival, the person performing the work, whether it's a painter, a cleaner, a carpet cleaner, takes a picture of the front door to verify that they've arrived, so you know when your vendor is on site, right? From there, we put a scope of work checklist in place. The vendor and the property management company agrees on this checklist. So the vendor knows what actually has to be done. I think cleaning is subjective. I think painting is subjective. If JJ asks me to go clean a unit today, well, what does that mean? What am I cleaning?
Yeah.
How am I cleaning? What needs to be cleaned? So we eliminate that confusion by putting a checklist in place that the person performing the work has to follow and that the maintenance or on-site team can verify, right? We know what to hold them accountable to, right? After the vendor completes the checklist, they submit all the before and after pictures via a guided photo tour. So we talk about quality. Well, what do you want your vendor to look at? Well, we tell them to take a picture of that. If you want to make sure your vendor cleans the vents every time, we make sure that the vendor takes a picture of the vents. If you want to make sure that baseboards are getting cleaned or painted, we make sure that the vendor's taking before and after pictures of the baseboard. So upon completion, the property can log in. They can see all the before and after pictures, time-stamped before and after pictures. They can see the clock in, clock out time to verify how long that person was actually in the unit. And they can verify the scope of work checklist that was completed, whether that's for painting, cleaning, carpet cleaning, you know, drywall repairs, resurfacing, right? A lot of opportunities for vendors when they think about the work that's being done within a unit.
Oh yeah. It sounds like it's pretty detailed, but could it be customizable? Like,
Yeah, so on August 1st, actually, we are pushing an update that allows the property to customize their scope of work that they share with their vendor. There's going to be a template, right? And you can add or remove from that template. And that's the scope of work that you and your vendor agree to do for any service that the vendor's providing. We're also allowing that to happen with your on-site maintenance team. So in the past, you know, you were only able to use Shyne with third-party vendors, but now you'll have the ability to use this with your on-site maintenance team. You'll be able to assign your on-site maintenance team scope of work. You'll require your on-site maintenance team to document it using before and after pictures. If you're like a Class B or Class C style property management company where you know, you're trying to centralize maintenance and maintenance professionals are going to multiple properties, we'll be able to track those maintenance professionals. We'll be able to track their clock in, clock out time. So really what we're providing, you know, come August 1st is an entire platform that centralizes infrastructure for make-ready processes for either your on-site teams or your third-party vendors or both.
you being a tech kind of guy, like, yeah, you could go in the rabbit hole of stuff like that, but the average person, they need to know the emotional part of like why this exists, and your investor side says like this is why it works because you need both. A lot of times, I always use like a head chef as an example. Like, yeah, they passionately they just want to cook.
Yes.
They don't want to do the inventory. They don't want to manage their employees. Just show up and let's have a great service. Like, but how do you get there with all the other things you have to do, right?
Like, if the head chef was the only one responsible for the entree,
Yeah.
but you got to deliver it, you have to wait the table, you have to give them the drink, you have to rely on so many other moving parts. So there's a trust factor there.
Yeah.
But you also have to be okay with perhaps stepping back away from being the one doing the cooking, teach others to cook, so you can go figure out opportunities to improve the business as a whole,
Right.
not just the food.
But that's a tough concept because you have to let go, and then you also got to accept like there's other aspects to it instead of just what I want to do.
Letting go is hard. I'll be the first to say.
Of course.
Letting go isn't easy, right? It's
Well, you got to trust your teams.
you gotta trust your teams, but you also have to build trust with your team,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
So it's like there's that process of building trust with your team.
Yeah.
I mean, I often say this is my baby, right? This
Yeah.
business is my baby, right? And yeah, it makes sense. But it's also like eventually, hopefully, your business gets to a place where you can work on it and not in it. And
I like that.
being able to work on your business means that the people who are in the business are trustworthy and can be hard workers and
Yeah.
open-minded and what you hope for from a teammate, you know? It's taken us a while to find, you know, the right teammates. that are working in the business every day,
But
right?
you know,
We went through and had.
I'd rather take time instead of do it in haste,
Yeah,
because then, I mean, they might convey your business in the wrong way,
yeah,
or your business might go the wrong, like just go in the directions you don't want it to go,
I would agree.
and it would be unfortunate and a big uphill battle to climb out of that.
I would agree, right?
Yeah,
Let's talk about time, right? Like,
yeah.
we started building Shyne March of 2022. It's been over 3 years. And we just got our first commitment of strategic partner. So if we think about like lessons, right? Like startup founders, like absolutely be quick, be fast, move on your feet, be quick but not in a hurry, if I had to bring football lingo into the mix, right? However, it's like, don't think you gotta like start earning money today right away. If you believe in it and like, hey, this is a big problem. This is by solving this, we're bringing value to the business world and to the industry as a whole. Take your time. Be patient, right? Once upon a time, I worked for a gentleman, and that working relationship didn't work out. And extremely successful dude. Like his business does just under 100 million a year. And he brought me into the office and we had a whole conversation. But the biggest takeaway was, you got to be patient. When you think about running a marathon, right? Like
You know how
the
that
the
goes.
the end result is cool. But being patient through your run, making sure that you don't speed up or slow down, like remaining on pace, right? And if you gotta walk, okay, just know that regardless, it's in your head that you're gonna finish. That's how I've been looking at my startup.
But it's a great example because think about how many miles you had to do just to run a marathon. Yeah, 26 miles is not easy, but you ran way more than that to get there.
That's correct. So like
You got to fall in love with the process.
the story of my startup story is crazy, right? Like my very first startup, I was all in. $140,000, 3 years. I wasn't the founder. I was part of the founding team. I believed in it so much. These are the miles that we talk about that I would categorize as training, right?
Yep.
Because it was training. That startup failed. And those are the miles that brought me to Shyne. And Shyne now is what I would say is in its 25th mile of beta, right? Like we are approaching the finish line to be able to have the product that we truly believe in and love that will reach scale, right? And now we got to run another one, right? Now we got to run another marathon when we actually hit market and we're actually scaling the process. But since we've put in all the miles with the first failed startup, we put in all the miles with beta. This third marathon, these next 26 miles, I think are going to be fun, exciting. I think they'll still be a bit painful, but we'll be able to smile a lot more through the pain because we know no matter what, once we hit the finish line, we're going to get a chocolate milk and some ice cream. And,
You've been there before, but now it's, hey, there's so many possibilities. Let's embrace this and let's go all the way.
yeah, that's where I'm at. At this stage in my career, I'm all in.
Yeah.
I'm going all the way. And I wouldn't do that if I didn't believe the impact that Shyne Network will bring to the multifamily industry, right? We have a lot of wonderful things coming. AI is a massive topic in any industry at this particular point in time. And, I believe we're going to have that hit our product in the next 6 to 8 months. I believe that, we're going to be able to build new features for, maintenance professionals. I often say, you have to meet people where they are. So when we think about the new features that Shyne Network will be launching in the future, those features will be specific to meeting people where they are. Text bots, right? Like maintenance professionals don't want another app. Property management companies on average use about 12 to 15 apps on a daily basis to manage their business. They don't want another app. So how are we building Shyne with that mindset of meeting people where they are? And that's how we're approaching future features. And I'm excited for a lot of that to start to roll out as we continue to, gather data and more. New dashboards, new UI, new UX, new colors. Like, it's so cool to be able to be like, wow, it's grown up, right? Like, Shyne Network has grown up from this little idea in your head to 3,000 transactions, right? We've done 3,000 transactions in our beta, to being able to raise a handful of dollars, not a ton. We're mostly bootstrapped, but getting that belief from exterior investors, and now, most recently, landing our first strategic partner to be able to hopefully give us the land, the what am I looking for? The launch pad, excuse me, to give us the launch pad that we need to take this somewhere.
I think it's pretty exciting. We'll definitely have to check in with you and see what the future looks like. Because I remember when you started with 3 people.
Yeah. So Pocket Aces, Pocket Aces Cleaning had 3 people, and
Just
ever since we implemented Shyne and had Shyne as our operating system, we've scaled to nearly 100 headcount as far as subcontractors are concerned.
it's crazy, like a broom and a snow shovel.
Literally,
And then,
literally.
but it's exciting though because you see where it's going, and anyone that's trying to solve a problem knows like, hey, this is going to be a wonderful resource that's just going to help just make everything so much better.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I love that you said a broom and a snow shovel, because that's really what
That's
it was, right?
yeah.
Like, it doesn't take much to try. It doesn't take much to you don't need fancy tech and fancy tools and equipment to put your best foot forward. Like, don't be embarrassed by the fact that all you have is a broom and a shovel, because that's all we had.
Yeah.
We had broom, shovel, grit, and a desire to build a company or companies that can scale. And with that, here we are nearly 4 years later, and we're accomplishing that across 2 businesses.
Yeah, the time is insane and it's only going to get better. So like, I don't know, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
So
me too.
in that short time that you've done all this, like what are you grateful for? And I mean, there's so much, right?
There's so much to be grateful for. Gratitude is something I've been trying to pay more attention to. It's easy to pay attention to the stress because it's what's prevalent. It's easy to pay attention to the money coming in because it's prevalent. It's easy to pay attention to the aches and pains and you're tired because, you've been working so hard. But slowing down and reflecting and really being grateful, I think, is a superpower. And I think finding time to do that more often is something I'm trying to do with great intention. Grateful for my wife, my soon-to-be wife. October 3rd, 2025. Gwen has brought a foundation to my life that, for one, allowed me to take risks that I never thought I'd have the ability to take. But for 2, an enormous amount of support and belief that I often struggle to see within myself. Self-doubt can set in, and she quickly reminds me that I am able and I am worthy and it is possible, and keep going because what else are you supposed to do? Stop? Right? So it's like,
Yeah.
I think sometimes people need those rocks and those people in their lives, and Gwen has been that for me. I'm grateful for the fact that I was capable of picking myself up and brushing myself off and trying again, right? A failed investment of $140,000, my entire life savings. COVID year forced me to leave Indiana where I was living and come back home, and I was in my parents' basement and I could barely even afford to pay for a water bill at my parents' house. Like, it was insane. I went from making nearly $250,000 a year for 3-4 years, having a large retirement account, as a 25-year-old, I guess you can say I was at that time. This is 2018, so 25, 26-year-old, and risking it all, and then losing it all. I'm grateful that I had the grit and the willingness to keep fighting, because for the first time in a long time, I feel worthy. And that's important.
I think you keeping that vision and really acting on it and bringing it to life could help a lot of people and is helping a lot of people. So I appreciate you spending the time here and letting us know what you're doing. And definitely you got to tune in and see what you're doing next. I, Thank you for your time, Josh.
Thank you. Appreciate it. This was
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah. It really, makes you grateful when you're able to share your story in such a way that is real, raw, authentic, and on a platform that doesn't make you feel judged. So I appreciate you as well.
You're welcome.